Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Embodiment Workshop 2. I don't know how many of you were here last time, but this is the second time we're doing this public embodiment experiment. The first time, John, if you haven't seen John's video, check out some of John's interviews on my channel and also on the CC channel. There's also the embodiment work from last time you can catch up on. But last time we worked on honest posture, breathing, absorption. A lot of people experimented with, well, just following John's instruction, said that they experienced like the deepest absorptions they ever experienced. So that was nice. But no expectation though, just come as you are. And today we're gonna go into a little darker territory. The focus is on Dark Knight, right? So I think a lot of us practice this solo. There's a lot of dark territories that we just couldn't get out of for years on end because we lack guidance or companionship. And seeing Dark Knight is something to like fix or get away from instead of seeing it like a feature. And it's a signal for things that we'll be ignoring, right? As I said before, like what conditions suffer is ignorance. And what's ignorance? Things that we ignore. We ignore those things and then that creates a split, right? Sense of separation. And a lot of these things that want to be ignored, you just want to be able to like feel them honestly and really just embody them and let them express. So this is what we're gonna do here today. And I'm gonna hosting this call with co-founder of CCCon over there before we introduce John in here. And this week is week 10 in our boot camp. So we were actually just talking about it, doing the pregame. And some of you asked us, like, do you guys even practice still? Like, we practice 24/7. This is the boot camp is 24/7. And the team actually go through their own training. Like, this is our training, preparing to host this with you guys. A lot of intensity. Yeah. How are you feeling, boss?
Yeah, we are just talking about before this call that usually at this time of every cohort, it'll be peak intensity,
Yep.
very tiring, and sometimes like the stressing gets so much that we don't even remember what was like in the last cohort. We just know that we survived. Uh, there could be this sense of like twists and turns, very challenging pattern comes up for review, and we gotta choose different. We gotta become different. Yeah, and I think it may be fitting to connect that to the territory of Dark Knight, which I think is the kind of territory where meditation gets really hard. Maybe the initial gains of bliss, love, and light is feels like very distant from us. And now we gotta look at the more challenging materials. We gotta pay our karmic debts, right?
Yeah, that's also the part about pacing too, right? Like as we just like move from boot camp to the next boot camp, I mean, learning how to pace,
Yep.
like peaking, pacing, they come together, right? Because it's like preparing for a race. Some people are like, oh, I need to catch up because everyone else is running faster than me. It's like, hey, this is the time to pace. Just chill out, maybe deload or whatever. But also to keep up the intensity. So there's like different angles. How do you navigate between like pacing and deloading, peaking intensity? How do you stay embodied throughout
Yeah.
all this?
Because with this, then it gives us a different perspective on what it means to be consistent, right? Sometimes I
Yeah.
think maybe we think of meditation and like, oh, I'm not being consistent because like the some sets I just feel terrible and some set feels pretty good, but we don't see that there is this kind of ebbs and flows that's quite naturally arising. Sometimes at the bliss after that come the dissolutions. We have to face these shadows, and then through those shadows, we make peace with it, develop equanimity, and then we start the cycle again. So I think like whether boot camp or even like workshop one, workshop two, we want to lay out this kind of the training can look really like a spiral.
Mm.
Yeah. That in this kind of territory of dark night, we get an opening to see clearly why we suffer and how to stop it, how to work with this clinging, grasping, identification in a very direct manners. And most importantly, I think, Frank, we also have been doing coaching call, our
All right.
team doing coaching call. Most importantly is to go through this territory with somebody else. Because I think this is usually also like the territory that we just cocoon and we just be by ourselves, very challenging and yeah. feel very
Like
distant
a
from the
spiral.
real.
Yeah, because like the more you kind of going through it, the more you cocoon yourself. And if you have that non-do a zombie mode or that view of like, oh, there's nobody here and to do that can further cocoon you into your own, I guess, solar realization bubble, as like we call it.
Yeah.
And we'll be emphasizing that this is a team sport, right? Like even if you practice alone, you're standing on the shoulders of giants.
So speaking of some shoulders, today we'll be standing on the shoulder of John,
What's up,
as
guys?
John will be leading the instruction set, guiding us through the territory. And then the sequence of today is that first we'll sit for maybe about an hour, and then we go into discussion. What just happened? How do we work with these territories? And maybe we would like to hear from your guys' experience, or just what's been going on for you. And the last part, especially for folks that is interested in joining us for the boot camp, we have a special gift for you at the end. Right. So we'll go and break down presentation, what we got cooking for you in terms of the program, the bootcamp program. That will be the third part. And also just the insight into how to apply these best practices really into your training. So maybe without further ado, I'll leave the space to John to start the
Thanks,
meditation.
thanks, guys. Thanks. Good to see everybody. Shall we go ahead and just jump right in? Right? Okay. So let's just arrive where we're at right now. Just want to acknowledge everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining me. My name's John, one of the operators here at CC, doing a little instructing here as well. Been here at the start of CC after Con and Frank started this thing, so really happy to be here. Really happy to be with you guys. So let's just simply arrive where we are at in the room, in the Zoom, in the boom boom, the body, on the ground, right? Arriving to where we are in space, in time, right? So we are here. And just make sure that we're in a secure spot to do this, right? Maybe I can remind you guys, phone silent, secure space, so you can really let go, really take a posture of openness, right? Check in with the moment, check in with the room, and check in with your body. So, just real quick, settle down, but when we talk about some things, so embodiment, right, has a pretty open-ended meaning, or has many meanings, depending on who's talking about it, what perspective, what view of it. I kind of come from an internal kung fu perspective, in a sense, an energy perspective, right? So to me, embodiment speaks to a lived knowledge, experiential. So more than just knowledge we hold, either hold as pieces or as things, as separate parts, and there's a lot of buzzwords, I guess, that people use when they're talking about embodiment. Words like integration or purification, right? Which I think those words, might be a little bit appropriated. Nothing wrong with that. But how's that done, right? How does one really integrate or purify? What are they purifying? So in this training, we're making contact with like the underlying process of our lived experience, right? So purifying the process of how we digest and become all the thoughts and ideas and concepts, emotions, desires, conditionings, habits, patterns, that we sense, feel, fabricate, aggregate. So learning to make contact and purifying this process of this lived experience, right? So it's beyond just gathering information and memorizing stuff, holding stuff, you know, not just collecting and consuming, you know, consuming without digestion, right? Come bloated, weighted down, fragmented, and in turn we might leak out all this unprocessed stuff where it gets stuck inside of us, cause internal friction, right? But it is everything we gather, hold on to, conscious or unconscious, condensed into a vessel, a form, the body. So we're familiarizing ourselves or familiarizing with the vessel, and it requires honesty, right? Honesty to really be able to make contact and begin to see the shape of this form and to become intimate. So yeah, we're clarifying that process. And as Frank mentioned earlier, some of you guys might have went to the first embodiment workshop where I kind of focused on an honest posture, what breathing versus respiration is, how to ride the breath, synchronizing this breath with movements, how we make choices, expressions, right? How to make contact with sensations, finding the edge of sensations and developing the absorption and staying power. So we're going to do more of that today, but with a focus on characteristics we might associate with dark nights, right? So I invite everyone to find a comfortable position, upright position, right? And even as we warm up here, let's keep our eyes open. You know, a lot of people who think about meditation, they just automatically close their eyes, but let's keep them open, at least for the warm up, right? Because we don't want to cut anything off, you know, even our surroundings. But naturally, they'll feel right when they want to close naturally. You'll know when. So it's not like we're forcing our eyes open, but we're not focusing to make our eyes closed either. Nothing too extreme, right? Let's make sure we're sitting in a way that we're not impinging ourselves. So I actually recommend, it looks like most people here are sitting on a chair, I think. But no need to force yourself to like a full lotus or whatever you may do. Because I want to put an emphasis on openness and we don't want to impinge by expecting or insisting a sort of external appearance as a guide there. So nice and comfortable. I like a chair and upright, so we don't want to be collapsed, right? And along with that, just allow yourself to set aside at least today's responsibilities, right? Because this time right now is for you. Is for you to simply be yourself, right? Come as you are, right? We always say. So now that we're here and we have arrived, let's make contact with the room and what we have brought into this moment, you know. You can even think about where we came from, because what this moment consists of is everything we've carried up until this moment, right? all the people, all the choices we made to get to right where we are right now. All the shoulders that we stand on top of everyone before us. Right? That's a lot of stuff. Be a lot of recent stuff, just stuff that happened earlier today, or still things we are carrying with us from many, many, many years ago, lives ago, all the way up to this day. So this moment, we carry things before and even after. So can we fully acknowledge what we are holding and also what is holding you? Yeah. Where are you right now? What's supporting you? What are we riding on? Right? So come as you are, unapologetically. So begin to let your body settle. Let your breath settle. Eventually, let your mind settle and set the intention to be open, attentive, not collapsed. And let's sync up with gravity and earth. These two great bodies that we can harness in this training. Just as a reminder, we can pull from these resources, right? Heaven and earth, gravity and earth. Use it to fill up or energize, right? All the work we do, all the choices we make really pivot off of the earth, right? And also these resources we can discharge into. We can always use the earth to ground what might feel like is too much, right? So the earth can take it off your hands, take a load off, or it can give away what you hold to be reabsorbed into the this expanse, right? Because nothing is annihilated, right? Or rejected, but you don't have to hold it all yourself. And you don't have to do this alone. So continue, keep your eyes open. When you find that you're not looking with your eyes anymore, they'll close naturally. So stay relaxed, upright, open, and don't rush. Let's be honest about, first off, our posture. We don't want to be memeing our sit. A lot of us have that image or idea of the Buddha, how they sit. all perfectly. And not that that isn't a good inspiration or aspiration to work towards, but we want to really be honest in our expressions outwardly, right? That is a reflection of what's happening inside. And usually things aren't symmetrically picture perfect like that, right? We really examine what's the process that we are. Things are fluxing and morphing all the time. You know, we'll find asymmetry, which is totally okay. So check in with your balance, right? Bring attention to the sits bones. It's those two protruding bones that are more on the front plane of your body. Check in that you're not lean back and sitting on your tailbone, right? A little bit of forward weight distribution is what a lot of us require these days. Kind of tap into the fullness of this around the shape we hold, shape of our karma, and really start stacking the body over the sits bones. And also making contact with the earth is our feet. For me, the ankles are two contact points that with these 2 points of the sits bones makes these kind of four contact patches. And just really acknowledging and tapping into these 4 points of contact. There's a lot to explore there, actually. Slightly lean forward, there's more weight on the feet. Lean back a bit, and there is more weight on the sits bones, right? You want to find this balance that evenly distributes the weight between these contact patches. And we're using gravity, the heavens, to really orient ourselves. This great force of gravity is very unifying, right? Not only just within our individual bodies, but really all of us are being uh, affected by the same gravity. So it really unites us all. So tap into that balance, right? We're still warming up, so you don't have to freeze yourself in any sort of insisted posture or form, right? But we'll keep an intention of stillness. And stillness doesn't mean completely no movement, but just an intention of, because as we sit here, externally might not look like anything's moving, but there's still so much going on within ourselves. Even where we place our hands has a lot to do with how this form is balanced, right? So really check in. with the balance. And as we let this balance settle, this body settle, we will let the breath settle as well. Follow the natural breath, right? However it is, we don't want to add any more pressure on top of it. And get to a space where it just feels like the breath is happening on its own. You can just follow this breath, right? As it comes in, we give it space. As the breath leaves, we just follow it out. We just follow this breath. It's interesting that there's more space to allow for that breath to enter than you would expect. And as we follow this breath out, there's also more that we hold on to than we would expect as well. As we are following this breath, you can see the parts of us, the spaces, these diaphragms, right? In various parts of the body. You have that main diaphragm right in the middle of our body that does most of the gas exchange. So many different parts that are connected to the diaphragm. In fact, everything. But this diaphragm, you kind of feel that it stacks on top of the lower body, right? Sits on top of our lower pelvic floor. That sits on top of our lower half of the body. And the way we hold our body, the way that we maintain this balance has a lot to do with how we are breathing. So we can see that how we hold the body, how we maintain this balance, how intimate we are with the earth, with the gravity. All those are choices in how we participate with this breath. It really is a global action. It takes all of our being to breathe. Interconnectedness throughout it all. I'm trying to develop an harmony between all of that. And doing this, we're kind of baselining our experience right now, right? Clearing the signal. Because as we let everything settle, the body, the breath, our minds can really start to feel into all the sensations that are here already right now. And all these sensations, right? There's qualities to them. So we explore these qualities and everything attached to them. This breath, maybe at the beginning, it feels very jagged, maybe cold, prickly, whatever it may be. We're not necessarily trying to change anything, but just to tap into whatever sensations there are present in your field and how these sensations are connected to the breath. As we sit here and feel into our breath, can we find that connection that the sensations are directly connected to our breath? So this breath has a shape. There's this edge to the breath, right? Of how it expands, how it contracts. We can train our staying power right at the edge of this breath. Maybe it's the edge right between inhalation and exhalation. Maybe it's an edge of intense sensations that we encounter at various parts or phases of the breath. We want to soften our form to really make contact with these various edges. Because the longer we stay at this edge, we become intimate with our experience. Can start to see the context of these various parts of the breath, parts of ourselves, even our relationship to the breath, relationships of the sensations to each other. So allow this breath to lead your attention and guide any refinements along the way. Because we're riding this edge like we're surfing. Takes a bit of skill, takes a bit of finesse. So we allow the body to settle, allowing the breath to settle. And then the mind follows. We let the mind settle. What is happening in the mind is intimately connected, directly connected to what is happening in our bodies. We want to let this signal be completely honest, right? Doesn't mean that we are trying to think about nothing, but we let whatever arises to arise with no shame, no suppression, but to be completely honest of what is there. Many times behind these intense sensations, perhaps there are parts we don't want to look at or acknowledge. But that's why we're riding that edge. We don't have to jump into the deep end. That could be too much. Find that edge of whatever is arising and sync it with the breath. And don't rush. Even things like sleepiness or torpor can arise. And that's okay. It could be seen as protective mechanisms, really, when things might be a little too much. So we can even become that. There's an edge of even sleepiness. Find the transition between this phase of sleepiness is really interesting to observe. So make contact with this entire field of the mind. So don't process, no need to post-process anything. Really feel now, interpret it later. Slow it down, frame by frame. We're training on how to work with all aspects we see of ourselves, what we can make contact with. Really learning to tap into that signal that we're going to learn how to clarify. Allowing all these aspects to first be seen so that they may synchronize. So let's absorb into all this. See all these connections of what we hold in our minds, how it condenses into this morphing shape of this body, this form. and how it reflects in the mind. Possibly seeing the roots of memories, thoughts, and feelings as if they're located in parts of our body. Let it all sink, be held by the earth. As we stay here, maybe we can begin to recognize then maybe the intensity or whatever qualities of these sensations, right? We're really riding the breath and how it makes contact with all these sensations. And we can see that it's all not just bliss and love and light. It can be quite intense when we are able to touch behind these walls that we've created inside ourselves that keep parts of us fragmented. And as we tap into our complete experience, we will find parts that are dysregulated, parts that don't feel grounded, like they don't sit on the earth, like it's not being held by the earth. Or maybe now we'll feel into how different parts are decoupled. But we stay at that edge, not manipulating anything, just following the sensations with the breath. So that we can see possibly where the roots of these sensations come from. These spaces of contractions, the edges of our anxiety, fear, whatever emotions, right? It's this complex web connecting everything together. We let everything intermingle through riding this breath. Can take notice if we're insisting that things should be this way or that way, here or there. We can revel and rest there in what we can see, of what we can make contact with. Rest in the now as the signal. So let all this settle. Let it clarify itself. Continue to follow this breath out. Where's the edge there? Give space for the expansion. Really see that there is so much extra stuff we're doing that we don't have to. We let this settle. Naturally finds the most efficient way to be. Can begin to clean up our process, right? Just by ceasing things that we don't have to do. Begin to not add any more on top. This really frees up what hooks us. This clarifies where we might be resisting. Shed light on all the different things we insist on. Maybe how we moralize things. This is good, this is bad. Really seeing our labels that we put on top of this raw sensations. How we put a lid on feelings that should be allowed to naturally rise, maybe capped by guilt or shame. So we contact the edges of all of this and breathe it as it. The sensations themselves are expanding and contracting, synced up with the breath, invigorated by the breath. Maybe these stuck parts that have been frozen and locked away so long, may they be jostled by making contact with this breath. Loosen the grip on all of that. Each breath like a paint stroke, painting a landscape of our inner world, showing contours and shape and textures. Getting clearer and clearer with each stroke, each breath, allowing everything to cohere into a unified form. We are this unified form, expanding and contracting in all directions at once. And it's only us that gets in the way of that. When we can see what and how we hold what we hold, we can start to actually see what we are actually doing. How we contribute by our choices to dysregulate. Maybe at this moment we can feel even more dysregulated or more sad, more intense, even more angry, more disgusted. This is all part of the process. You have to allow for this karma to arise. It can be shocking, but as a reminder, we're not alone in all this. It's part of that honest expression, honest becoming, to build the intimacy with whatever arises fully, fully see it, feel it, love it, hate it, hold it. See how this process can really capture us. Remember, you can share this with the earth if it feels too much. You can breathe as the earth, share the load. But we want things to clarify honestly, and in a way, even allow ourselves to be completely, utterly disgusted. Allow it to express, to, in a way, exhaust these hidden tendencies. Or maybe we encounter these loops in our process. Allow it to run. Let it be exhausted. Because these processes, these loops that happen, that we do during a sit, the same loops that happen off the cushion. So whatever we examine here will be something that we take off the cushion as well. So make contact with it all, even the unpleasant parts, these characteristics of what people might call a dark night, right? As we do this, right, the exhaustion process, allowing things to arise and express, allowing yourself to feel the hurt, the intensity, whatever it is. We allow it to express, and it may manifest in every which way. But here in this container, really training to be able to see it all first, see it honestly, right? Really peeling back the lid and facing it. Don't have to do it all at once, right? Just the edge so we can stay there. Be able to start to see this shape, this form, and be able to cradle that. You know, we find all these knots and these tangles, this rawness, maybe this inflammation, ossification, nihilistic tendencies, disillusionments, all kinds of parallel, perpendicular, opposing processes. If we only use one lens to perceive all of this, we only get a partial perspective. But just rest into the shape. You lay this form gently onto the earth. Feel under the layer of stories and meanings. Reverse it back into raw sensations, raw energy. Allow this unifying force of gravity to melt this form into the ground and draw this earth in. It's an endless well. Really feel into the fullness of each breath, the clarity. can even rinse this rawness with the breath. This conduit of communication between what we might perceive as a separate other. Open up that conduit, allow the fullness, the sensation of thickness to just fill you up. Go easy, right? We don't have to even clench or hold on to this process. You can use this breath to attend to whatever comes up. Explore this quality of what, where, and how this flow happens, this process. Because that's what purifies, is the process. Can train so that this process is smooth but complete. Free flow, right? Mutual exchange between all parts. Non-judgment of what comes up. Let's really clarify this conduit. You can start to feel this undulating force that's everywhere. Expansion and contraction radiating out from the center. Central axis, right? The spine can feel like it's throbbing. Receiving and giving endlessly from all directions. Let everything sink down. Let the mind sink down. Can feel as things sink downwards. It contributes to our sense of the shape of this form. As we allow everything to sink down, follow it. You can start to see, even with more clarity, the structure that we hold. Maybe we might notice, breaks in our structure from this exploration. Maybe a leakiness in the shape of the vessel. But this is all part of this debugging process. Internal debugging, right? This messy code is being rewritten. Reconnecting all the parts back into the network. Turning on parts that, for whatever reason, became offline. You can reboot the router. Turn off all the interfering noise and clear the signal. So that every cell can really participate in the process. Yes, I keep emphasizing how it's important to be honest, not just with ourselves on the cushion. We're trained to be honest with others off the cushion. We also train to sit with and begin to see our own afflictions. It takes this recognition to really begin to work with it. It's preliminary to be able to see it first to work with it. And what is uncovered can then be shared with and reflected upon with others, right? Which requires a secure and capable container. Really training to be naked, to trust this nakedness. So part of the training here at CC, this experience is that we participate. So I encourage people to participate in the sharing of the process of what you might have uncovered. So as we cool down, we'll can take our experience here and reflect with each other, with the team, to even have this possibility, to have a chance to even begin to see what we don't see in ourselves, what we are blinded by. It's not easy to make contact with things you don't see yourself. So we don't make contact with it. We don't have mirrors. These hidden aspects can continue to loop over and over, right? So we can slowly start to pick up all the aspects that we may have laid down for this training. Start to come back into where we have arrived. Back into this physical body. The substantiality of it. Slowly open our eyes. And prepare to allow for cross-pollination with everyone in the discussion so that we can have a soft landing that's gentle and fruitful. Really be able to see the self in others and vice versa. Maybe that wasn't the most blissful type of sit, but hopefully we're able to uncover or more clearly see this process, this experience that we are. We'll end the sit there. So I want to know, how is it for you guys?
All right. As part of the cool down process, we have a poll that you guys can fill out 3 questions here. Degree of rest, challenges you face, and perhaps one question you'd like to ask about this sort of embodiment training. Remove spotlight from John so we can switch into discussion mode.
So do we just talk popcorn style?
Yes, Vijay, but perhaps we wait for 1 or 2 moments just for people to finish up on the poll.
Gotcha.
Right, maybe 30 more seconds on the poll. Okay, I will share the poll result with you guys. See what kind of spread that we have. Okay, ending poll. Share result. Seems like we got ourselves a nice spread. The lowest quality of rest was 3, highest was 10. And the most common challenge we had was intense sensation that was difficult to be with. How was this for you, Frank?
I was glad I think I got pretty good rest because I think I mentioned earlier yesterday was the first night I slept for more than like 5 or 6 hours in the last few months. So I feel rested right now. How's it for you?
Um, it was a solid amount of exertion. I think there was a sense of I noticed in about at a certain point in sit, I felt like, oh, okay, this I can I sense that I think the group at this moment is just tipped over into like this is getting uncomfortable now.
Mm.
It's going a little longer than like, oh, I thought it's gonna end now. Oh, it's not ending yet. He's setting out another set of instructions. Oh, and then at that moment, I was sensing, okay, there's a half of us seems to be leaning in. I'm like, okay, let's go for it. Let's do another round. Let's apply more instruction. And the other half, like, man, I got enough. Like, I want to stop now. not gonna listen to you anymore. It was an interesting kind of split,
Mm.
kind of like hitting the wall of how much embodiment we can actually be. And yeah, feeling that edge, that we come to that edge, we see it, and then we're like, nah, I'm not doing it.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it was right at around when John started talking about the spine, throbbing spine. It was like when like a good chunk of us just stopped practicing.
Yeah, it's interesting that on purpose, I'm asking people to, uh, in a sense, open their wounds. You know,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
lot to ask for. A lot of meditation guidance out there is kind of geared towards an orientation of bliss or lightness or whatever it may be, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's different purposes for different intentions for different instructions, but this one, I do understand that it could be very uncomfortable, but I want us to carry whatever we uncover into this container, right? Because I think this is something that might be pretty unique as far as different containers out there. Yeah. Even in giving the instructions, I'm hearing myself. I'm going through the process myself too. So
Yeah, I was gonna ask, how was it for you, John, this time when you give an instruction versus the last time? I guess the last time you say you felt a lot of heat.
yeah, I mean, I encounter my own edges during this, you know, and feeling into how people are kind of resisting or at that certain points where they just drop off, like, oh fuck it. And yeah,
Mm.
so it's a balancing act, not just between the different individuals, but myself and other. And I'm just allowing my everything within me to really come out honestly, you know, because like you mentioned, you know, this is part of our training,
Mm.
being on this side of things as well. So
Mm.
yeah. One of the thing I was also noticing, tuning into the overall of the group, is there could be a sense of, because I think John, you guide us through like an arc of warming up, taking things in, not closing our eyes very fast, and then stacking our body, getting to the edge of the breath, allowing that breath to even extend beyond the body. I think there could be a space where some portion of the instruction hit us really well, and we become very embodied, and then we just stick to that part, and we just keep holding on to that bliss, and not actually going through, allowing also that. So okay, that's like a good basis. Continue, and then take
mm,
a bigger tour over that.
yep.
So
Mm.
there could be that type of like grasping as well. When a good experience arises and we don't want to move forth, we just want to stay there. Could be
Mhm.
the type of greed. Yeah.
Yeah, so I in a way continually pull out that rug once we feel comfortable.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorting through some questions that we post down. I got some questions here. We can go and start answering these, or we can also hear from other folks' experience now.
Yeah, feel free to speak up, anybody. Yeah.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hey, what's up, Ryan?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that was like at points I felt like it would be more challenging for me, which kind of then brought forth shame at points. So I felt like I wasn't doing enough. Um, and there was a lot of heat throughout it. I felt like I was sweating loads. Um, yeah, like I feel like there was times where when following the edge of the breath, it felt like inflating like a balloon. But then I noticed that kind of when that would happen, kind of creating that grasping around, oh yeah, I'm doing it right now or something. And then like holding that and then realizing maybe I've like slipped off a bit from the instructions. And then there'd be that cycle of shame again, where like I'd feel almost like this shame and then feel like, oh wait, that's where I'm leaning into now. So I feel like I'd be flip-flopping throughout.
Yeah, this sounds like quite the yeah.
Yeah, you kind of felt that I'd surf and then maybe I'd go under the wave or something, or like I'd fall off the board and then pick myself up and then go on it again most of the time throughout.
Yeah. 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 I'm actually thanks for sharing, Ryan. I'm actually curious about this process of riding the breath. Is this familiar or completely foreign to people here? I'm always interested in hearing what people actually do during
I
it.
can talk to that. So,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you're also very elite. That was amazing guided meditation. Thank you.
You're
Um,
welcome.
I had never really thought about it as like the edge of the breath touching everything.
Mhm.
It was just like another abstract layer that I had gotten close to intuiting, but I never thought about it that way. And so it was really fun because I get to explore this space of breath meditation that was always there, but I had never gotten to really play with.
Cool. Yeah. I think a lot of times when people think about breath these days, they think about breath work in a way, Wim Hof stuff, blah, 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 all good stuff, But yeah, it's really, I really enjoy talking about the distinction between respiration and breathing. When people talk about, oh, breathe with your kidneys or breathe with your whole being, it's just this connecting to this, really, this embodiment of all that we hold. So yeah, I really try to take people for a ride. I'm glad sounds like you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks.
Any stuff that came up that you were like, oh shit, pain?
My hips were pretty bad. Yeah, I had to stretch, but it was great because it was a release if you sat with it. And I just changed position. I just listened to the body.
Mhm.
Um, I had like a headache um, at some point, and you were right when it was getting bad. You were talking about like the othering, and so I was like, oh, I'm doing that. So I tried to like include it in myself.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Thanks, David.
Mhm.
Yeah, John, how would you explain the edge of the breath to people that might not be familiar with it?
Mm, like there's a couple different edges I mentioned during the set. One that's really interesting to me is this edge between like um contraction and expansion. It's all
The bardo,
transition.
the
Yep,
that,
exactly. This
okay.
bardo of the breath, right? Because transitions, I think, are one of the most intriguing phases in phenomena, really. Because if you can watch how things morph from one to the other, how there's not a clear line, right? And we can really abide in this bardo, the breath especially, and
Mm,
things are really clear at that moment. Because for me, it's like, you let the body settle, let the breath settle. So really that bardo is right in between breaths, right?
mm,
You let the mind settle. You have all these things coming up. There's a bardo between thoughts, which is really awesome. Time doesn't really make sense there. And within that, seeing the transition between this and that is very clear. So whatever comes up, you can really examine intimately. And so we're training in a staying power to be absorbed into that edge, right? And I mentioned the edge a lot because I think that's the entry point for any sort of work. Because I think in this modern age, everything's so intense. We're overloaded with everything, and there's a tendency just to jump into something, just jump into the deep end. I mean, there's time where that's appropriate too, but a lot of times you jump into something so intense you just get knocked out because it's too much. So this gentleness of staying at the edge is a way to level up the fitness of being able to examine our experience, right? So uh, yeah, so the edge of the breath is just a way to guide our attention, or how we route with what we're working with, you know?
Mm. I
Yeah.
also really appreciate, I think, that there was a first set of instruction was about building and coming to contact with your container, and then you
Mhm.
go to the edge. I think so
Yep.
often that we just want to jump straight to the edge, and then maybe nothing happens. That's definitely one. Like you don't have the momentum to go to the edge yet, or you do go to the edge and now you're overwhelmed, dysregulated.
Mhm.
When you can't come back from the edge, and now, every sit just become a little bit more destabilizing. So I think, John, you start with like the sit bone and then the ankle. It's like the point of contact, so we can see the posture we have. And then I think you were mentioning about like stacking these different diaphragm, so that we have a sense of a container.
Mhm.
And then we start to explore the edge.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think that
Yeah.
was someone was typing it out, that I like the practice of creating space to navigate sensation. Yeah, like that's what we did. We create the space first. And
Mhm. Mhm.
then within the space, now there's more flexibility, but also more staying power to navigate.
Mhm.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
kind of remind me of in the boot camp we talk about building the container as well. Like the first 6 weeks, we build the container with the aggregates, the elements, and then we see the totality of our being, and then we reach the edge of our being, and then we let presence reveal itself, and that's an edge too, like between like being in presence, or between like inhale, exhale. There's different kinds
Mhm.
of edges, yeah. And the transition is also a very interesting thing to observe, just like John said, because like our mind, because we're dualistic beings, our mind would just like oscillate towards one end of the extreme or another. But if you really observe like the edge and the transition from one extreme to another, because you like constantly, you either overshoot or you undershoot or something.
Mhm.
But then when you really see the transition between extremes, between different phenomenons, and seeing that there's actually no edge,
Mhm. It's
right?
like the edge is that middle way almost, right?
Yeah.
In looking at that way.
Mm. Just like surfing the middle way, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
But the way we talk about middle way is not like in between 2 points.
Yeah.
It's actually beyond 2 points, but includes everything. So
Mhm.
you that's why all these practices of becoming as you are, not negating anything, that's
Yeah.
practicing the edge.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and pointing to the edge or making contact with the edge, I like to, you know, guide people to begin to see the shape of this vessel. I think, because I think a lot of this meditation that really focuses on this or that, it really gives you tunnel vision sometimes,
Mm,
which is
yeah.
okay too. But here it's like, man, I just want to see the shape of the container and breathe as this unified thing.
Mm,
And the container of ourselves, it's like a fractal of the container of this discussion group right now. So it's just like
yeah.
allowing all that to surface and become clear. Yeah.
Yeah. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah. What's up, Esteban?
Hey, yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for that. That was a really good sit.
Oh, cool.
Um, I feel like a lot of that had to do with like stuff like body scanning, and that's actually probably one of the weaker kind of techniques that I have used or that I'm used to. And so I really appreciated that kind of way that you kind of kept building the structure and then breaking it down and bringing us back to like being here and embodying this instead of just kind of like dissolving everything and going into nothingness and or doing something else. Like it was very yeah, it was very grounded. And I think one of the things that I appreciate now in my meditative journey is that I can sit with things that are me like distracting or hard. And so today I got to sit with being extremely tired. Like I at the beginning I was just like falling asleep, talking about like riding the edge of our breath. I kept getting there, and like feeling all the sensations, and then just like conking out and falling asleep. And so there was a this point where uh, there was just something I was able to, you were talking about the breath, and I was able to follow it in a certain way to where it just like created this like clarity and balance, and like I was able to stick with it. And for the rest of the meditation, did not doze off.
Oh,
But yeah, it was interesting. Like I forgot to plug my charger in and my phone, and so it popped up, and so I got to like work with that. The way that like the intention came up to me to go get it, to charge it, to be upset because I just wanted to stay here and continue this peaceful
Hmm.
meditation. Um, so yeah, I like working with those things, and this was a really good opportunity because a lot of times I won't sit for as long if I'm alone doing it, and I won't be
mm,
as persistent because I don't have community around. And so this was really cool because it kind of like set the stage to really get in there and be persistent uh, about it. So yeah, thank
wow.
you.
Thank you, Esteban, for sharing. Yeah, a lot of interesting stuff you said there.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, right. You touched upon aspects of how working with a sangha, a group, really changes dynamics versus a solo practitioner, right? We get to share this collective like momentum, and we're riding this together. That really uh, just helps with the momentum of this practice. And I really like how you mentioned increasing staying power with like things that might disturb you, right? Because I think a lot of us feel, oh, okay, I'm going to meditate, and it's all about no more stress. Things are getting better, but it's funny enough, the more we train and as our fitness level increases, our capacity to handle stress increases. So if I look at my own life as are things more peaceful in a sense, yeah, but also fuck, I can just hold on to more stress and it's not a problem, you know? So I think that's really cool. Uh, yeah, and just like you, I think there's a part where my cat was like crawling behind me. And I was like, oh, but like it reminds me of when I first started meditating. I was like, I expected everything to be perfectly quiet and perfectly still, no distraction whatsoever. But part of, keeping your eyes open and really taking in the totality of the moment are our surroundings, our sounds and cats walking by, whatever it is. So thanks, Esteban.
Yeah, I always have to think about like what it was like to meditate way back when you just had to be somewhere sitting with like a bunch of mosquitoes and just like scared that like something, a predator was going to eat you or whatnot. So like, yeah, I don't know.
Mm.
Thank you for the inspiration.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Yeah. And I come from a really, really how would you say it? Just body scanning as a really physical thing, just
Hmm.
energetics, like, for performance or cultivating chi, things like that. So in this training, we see that it's not just this physical body scanning, it's scanning the body of the moment, body of whatever.
Vipassana the universe.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. All heard Frank say that before, right? Yeah.
I forgot to say. Yeah, the training with the
Vipassana,
group.
Vipassana. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say training with the group is really interesting because you can. It's almost like we in a boot camp. Almost feel like we're going on a run every morning, and then it's like you feel the pull. It's like, oh, you want to slack, but then you feel this pull to like just stay with the group, and whatever you're working through, whatever you're processing, it's like other people are also processing it. It's like a co-creative process. Yeah.
I do have a share if you don't mind, John.
Say it again.
I do have a share if you don't mind, John.
A share. Like in this sit, perhaps? Is that what you mean? Or
Yeah, about the sit. Yeah.
hmm. I mean, if I had to say like where my edges were and what I was working with,
No, no, no,
it
no, no. That's not my question. I just wanted to ask, like, because in the past, like the last, I went to the other session, the other 3 hour session, and I
Mhm.
felt a lot of torpor. So
Mhm.
this time, I had a sacred image in front of me, and I was chanting during the meditation. And I wonder if that's okay or acceptable according to the standards of what was
Hmm.
available. or is it better to just not chant and just because I didn't want torpor basically, so I was chanting.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I will say that there's no right or wrong per se. Even if we have this, because what arose for you was this desire to chant for a certain function, right? So even in that, it's not about the chanting or whatever you might do. It's to see, in a way, the underlying process of
Your
why
insistency
you want to,
or
yeah, your
whatever.
insistence, right? So it's not even about cutting it off, but now that it arose, that's stuff to work with. That's an opening to see more clearly your own process. So that's why I don't, in CC, all of our instructions are pretty they're not really specific in that way, right? I'm not telling people to guide the energy up their spine or build up their dantian or hold a certain mudra. All that has function to it, but we're talking about like this underlying process that everything else kind of rides on top of. So, you have these techniques to kind of help you with your torpor, right? So that's totally fine. Um, but it's never about the technique per se, right? It's the context of it, the relationality to you and the technique itself. Um, it's different
Yeah.
for everybody. Yeah.
And torpor can be very frustrating to work with, right? Because it feels like we're not working with anything. We're just blacking out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also because this 3 hour session is kind of like a preview of what the boot camp is like. And I need to test if it actually do my chant and sit with you properly so that if I join the boot camp at some point, that I'll be able to handle the 90 days of every day doing something like this and to have an anchor like that, I think would be very helpful for
Yeah. Yeah. You'll
Yeah.
just get more intimate with your own process, whatever that may be.
Arthur, I would say that for me, one of the major things that constantly is a challenge for me is also torpor. Like a lot of sessions just have a good 30 minutes chunk of blacking out, dozing off on that, and then to kind of develop a better relationship with it.
Mhm.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
like
man.
we recognize like why don't I want to feel this?
Yeah. For me, I actually flipped that in myself. I used to really like try to stay awake or whatever, but I might have mentioned that transition between sleepiness and awakefulness, I think is so fascinating. When you can see that coming in and out, oh man, all of a sudden my interest just peaks up and almost like, oh, I'm not sleeping anymore. What the heck? But
Yeah, that's another transition right there. Yeah.
mhm.
Mm.
Really, really cool transition, I think.
Yeah, and often you see that the even the insistency on like not wanting to fall asleep and then like chanting, it's like if you don't examine like the underlying structure, like John said, of like, oh, why do I not want to be with torpor? And you go to the other side of that. Oh, I just want to chant, chant, chant. Therefore, I experience what's not torpor. But then, like, that those dualities, the transition from one to another, or like the relationship, or your relationship to them, is more important than say I'm chanting or not, or I'm doing this technique versus that technique.
understand the underlying beliefs, basically.
We
Or
always,
even deeper than beliefs.
yeah,
Okay.
that
Or
that
gives
common
rise to the
kind.
beliefs, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was just gonna mention that cliche quote, which is what is it? It's not about the contents, but it's the container. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like the view, right? We talk about the view a lot. A
you-
lot of people think view, when I say view, people immediately think of like a beliefs or like ideas or concepts or worldview. But the view is basically your entire reality. So a lot of this,
mhm,
what we're doing here is like examining our view, but we can't really see our own view. That's why we need each other to point out our blind spot. Like
mhm,
beliefs trickles down from views. Identity trickles down from views. But what is a view, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Especially if we experience this kind of meditative torpor, right? Like we just drink our coffee, we had plenty of sleep, but the moment we sit down, we feel sleepy. Like it's not, it's very unusual. So then we're saying that there is a significant part of us that do not want to sit down and see what we have to see. So then it's like, oh, What is it about myself that I don't want to see this? Why do I prefer to go asleep and snooze than to see what's going on?
Mhm. And I think I brought up that, it really is a protective mechanism to when that sleepiness or torpor kicks in. Like, fuck it, I don't want to look at that. So
Yeah.
getting that edge, seeing that edge there helps us, really be able to become intimate with whatever that is.
Or even the grasping towards like bliss too. A lot of times, like concept in the beginning, um, I think as if you practice a lot of meditation, like usually you can generate a condition where you feel blissful, you feel peaceful. But we don't see that. That could be an insistency on a particular kind of condition, a particular kind of state. So you don't look at the things that you're not willing to look at. Right? All these different ways our minds would make maneuver in order to not see our own afflictions. That could be a meditation itself.
Mhm.
But you like wanting to stay awake, maybe your insistency to not look at like your relationship to torpor or what the underlying mechanism in which is torpor arise. Yes. Instead of like going to the edge, you want to like go the other way by chanting or by vipassanaizing so you feel bliss or whatever your maneuver is, right? So a lot of times when we come here, it's actually to renounce from a lot of these different maneuver we're so used to doing.
Mm.
Right? The patterns you already formed in terms of like what you think meditation is, what it should look like,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like deriving an is from an ought,
Right.
something
Yeah.
like
So,
that.
yeah. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing, Arthur.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
the kind of an overall process I'll describe is like, first we want to become honest, so things arise, and in that arising, we can examine it, and also in that process, we are kind of exhausting the insistence we have on it, right? And once we can exhaust these things, when we can cease, we have to somehow not convince ourselves, but let go enough where we just finally are able to stop adding on all this extra stuff on top. That's kind of a lot of the ways we get in the way of ourselves. We just keep putting layers on top of each other. And what does it take for us to finally just be? I mean, I describe it as disgust, but it could be satisfaction, whatever it is. Until like it is enough for you, whatever that is, to finally be able to make that choice, to see it clearly, to be so like you know, done with it, can stop. You know, yeah.
Yeah, as long as you're honest, if you want to chant, and okay, I'm honest about this is why I'm chanting, and then you see the mechanisms of it, and nothing is like off limits.
Mhm.
Yeah. But like the reason why honesty is so important is because we can't illuminate unless we're honest, unless we see it. We can't exhaust something like John said with the cease, but we can't cease unless we illuminate it. We see it.
Mhm.
We can't see it if we're not honest. The embodiment is all about honesty, actually. Right? You can't be embodied if you're not honest.
See an interesting question from Hannah. Can you talk more on the input you gave of gravity and giving to the earth? Yeah. I'll say that this was something I learned from my Taoist inner alchemy type of practice. It really speaks to, in a sense, non-separation. Um, and when we think about what a human is, a person, an individual, we're this conduit between heaven, gravity, and earth. We're just this middle part. And we want, in a way, this clear flow. And we can use as a resource. I mentioned that because during these types of practices, I think as I'm asking people to let these things come up, it could be very intense and jarring, and people might just crash out or lose it, right? And the earth is like this resource that we can either draw from to stabilize, or if we have too much into us, we can just give it back to the earth too. It's like maybe like a technique to allow for regulation because we're asking ourselves to let all this shit up, and it can be can knock ourselves off, in that way. And the gravity too, I really one of my favorite things about gravity is like we're all feeling the same gravity right now, you know. And that really gives me a sense of unification with everybody, So um I mean there's not too much more than that as far as in context to this sit though. Yeah. Let me know if I answered your question, Anna.
Yeah, hey, thank you. It's more about like I've heard it a lot, that phrase giving to the earth, but what it feels like texturally or sensorily, what that actually means. Is it like feeling the qualia of weight or and kind of deepening into that, or what it
Mm.
actually palpably feels like?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all interpretive, right? Once we make contact with those sensations, it's almost like in a way, if we give it to the earth, we don't have to label it as this or that as well, you know. Um, but yeah, it's a resource. It's just grounding. If I talk about grounding, in a way, as this human conduit, as this being with ignorance, we'll hold things and grasp things in a certain way. Like we don't want to give it to the earth or whatever it might be. So part of the instruction was like it's almost imaginary, but you let the earth hold it. You let the earth cradle it. So meaning you're not holding it anymore. It's
It's like deity
something that
practice a little bit with the earth.
yeah, it is. It really is in a way. Mother Earth. In a way, I kind of toned this sit down because sometimes I describe this as like making love with the earth, fucking the world with your spine and shit. Like, so I kind of put that to the side. But it's really becoming intimate with this thing that is holding us. And really, there's parts when you feel dysregulated, like say, I always use martial arts as a reference, right? You can kind of punch with your arm. That might work in certain ways, but if you punch from the earth, you know, and the same thing about thoughts or how we breathe. We can breathe from just an isolated thing, think from isolated view, or we can let the earth do it for us, help us with it at least.
There's different ways of routings that allows you to orient yourself towards like more grounding or whatever, but ultimately there's scaffolds. Right? There's scaffolds. Like for example, if you get lost in thought, one routing is to, like John said, is to feel the gravity of the earth, right? Or even just like the breath or whatever it is, right? But then once you let go of that scaffold, you can actually ground yourself in the thought. Like if you lost in thought, ground yourself in the sensation of getting lost in thought. But for a lot of people, that's a little more difficult. So you create different routings as a scaffold for you to like temporarily use it as a preliminary ground almost. It's just chanting and all that kinds of stuff, right? Yeah.
Vijay, would you like to share?
Yeah, thank you, Khan. I It was interesting. I definitely you talked about Qi and Taoist and doing this. I just thought to myself, he probably practices Qigong, and I wanted to say there was a slowness to the practice that was really nice. I think it sort of that pace of it really forced me to let go of the usual regulation techniques that I have and really be with the earth and have that sinking feeling. What came up for me was a lot of these micro movements of the mind to self-regulate. I noticed that there was actually when it came to the edge of the breath, my breath would literally restrict when there were painful moments. And so my mind wanted to possibly go to jhana, or it was even dissociating a little bit from the pain or those uncomfortable sensations. And it was really interesting to notice the movement of just how they arose. The body was essentially sort of holding on to it, locking itself up from connection. And then it was causing these micro contractions to kind of build up and build up and build up. And so it was like, even though the earth was right there, my own personality and body patterns were just like holding on to this because it didn't want to feel it. So that was a really interesting technique. So quite appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks for sharing. First off, that's fucking racist. Just kidding. Um, the qigong thing. No, I'm joking. I totally practice qigong, but yeah, that edge of the breath when you contact that pain is really fascinating to me because a lot of times you start breathing, you're like, oh man, it's painful right there. I think a lot of people have this I don't know what it is exactly, but we just want to just take a deep breath and just rip it apart and blast it away, you know, like even when we have a sore muscle, we just want to fucking stretch it out and just like you know, like what the hell, it's all contracted. But the kind of technique about riding the edge to that sensation is how you become more familiar, more intimate about that sensation, that pain. Like through this technique, hopefully we are able to see or understand the context of why it is that way. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's interesting. You notice your mind wanted to go to jhanas.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool that you're able to see your process in all that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it's about.
That's what it's
Thank
about.
you.
Exactly. I was just gonna say that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the visual is very apt that we know the earth or the grounding is right here, but we make choices to separate, 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 separate.
Mm. Yeah.
Right?
Also, grounding sometimes can feel uncomfortable, right?
Hmm.
Like if you have the insistence that this meditation should feel grounding the way we think grounding is, then you might not even want to feel whatever needs to be felt, right? You create different maneuvers to like, oh, let's stay grounded. And what does grounding mean, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes grounding can be very, very unstable. Can you ground yourself in instability? Can you rest as restlessness, right? Yeah.
I also thought it was really cool that you recognize that you use these techniques as a kind of a remedy
Mhm.
for whatever you might do. Like, oh man, this is doing something that maybe I'm using techniques as an exit strategy almost, you know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, that's a
happen.
big one, right? Like
Yeah.
we've been talking about how we can use spiritual techniques or
Yeah.
practices to avoid certain discomfort.
Yeah, that's a huge part of our theme. When coming, because a lot of people coming here, they have a lot of different techniques ready to boost up in order to like instantiate a certain state. Not seeing
Mhm.
that actually, they think those, I'm working, it's working. But the stuff that don't want to be seen, don't want to be felt, keep getting pressed down, keep being ignored. But you can't see that yourself.
Yeah,
'Cause something
spiritual
worked in
path.
the past. Yeah, yeah. It worked in the past doesn't mean it's working. It doesn't mean
Mm.
it's working now. Sometimes stuff that
Doesn't
worked
mean
in the
there's,
past is actually the blockage right now for you to see further.
yep, yeah.
The
It doesn't
obstacle,
mean
right?
you abandon and throw that
Yeah,
technique away
yeah, it
either,
doesn't.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. But
Everything is
then,
like a remedy to our current situation, but there's wisdom to know
mhm,
when that technique becomes an
becomes
anchor.
the poison. Yeah, like the medicine becomes the poison.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for
thank you.
sharing.
Good to see you here, Vijay.
Thanks, Frank.
And yeah, I think Arthur or a couple mentioned that this is really like a taste of what the boot camp can be like, especially at the initial first few weeks. We do a lot of grounding practices in the first few weeks to really start the process of building out the container and observe how we've been disassociating from our experience. It's gonna take a while, getting in touch with your feelings, how you think, what kind of pattern you've been running on before we do any kind of sophisticated cessation or anything like that. We just want to build out the base, the foundation very well. And like I think John was also saying that it's a debugging process, right? Like just see like how your mind tilt and like split into that.
Debugging, yeah. Mhm.
So yeah, now we would like to present to you what's going on with our bootcamp, what's going on with the solution we have been implementing in the last 2 years. With regards to Frank at that time, I think was arriving at the edge of what was available for modern Dharma, pragmatic Dharma, and we were kind of seeing like, okay, I think there could be more, but we don't know how to move forward. It's kind of at the end of the map. Right. And one of the things we like Frank and I started CC, but we really didn't know shit about anything in terms of tradition and the framework and whatnot. But one thing we did know was there is this sense that we want to cultivate some sort of a companionship. We want to bring people together. That's at least what we do know. So I think in that way, we would like to share our